My girlfriend's best friend called me a creep for ogling my girlfriend. I need some sense here. I 30 have been with my girlfriend 30 for 9 months now. We have just introduced out friends to each other and everything is going smoothly. I think she's the one, to be honest. My girlfriend has a very pretty face. It's just perfect and I love watching her. She's also very shy and blushes and gets flustered when I look at her more a few seconds. And she would try to evade my eyes or laugh nervously and kiss me to break the awkwardness. But she never made me feel that I was being out of line or creepy. And I always thought it's her shyness that's causing the awkwardness rather than my gaze and creepiness. But I will be honest here, her shyness adds to her charm, man. I find it very hot that she's still so shy around me. Last night, I was at a restaurant with her closest friends and my girlfriend was telling a story. She was telling the story and blushing, and I didn't notice it, but I was probably gazing at her, when all of a sudden her best friend shouted, "Would you stop being so creepy and stop ogling her? Can't you see that she's uncomfortable?" The loudest silence followed this, and then my girlfriend said that she wasn't uncomfortable at all. But her best friend continued that she has noticed me staring at my girlfriend all evening, and that it was very creepy. I told her that she was my girlfriend, and that I wasn't staring at a stranger, but then all the girls said that I was wrong. It is wrong to stare like this at a woman, even if she's your girlfriend, and that I should at least have noticed how my girlfriend was uncomfortable. Another girl's BF told them that was ridiculous and they rounded on him. It turned into a harassment discussion, and I felt so embarrassed to be accused of being a creepy dude. I told them that my impression was that my girlfriend was nervous because she was telling a story and everyone was listening, rather than being uncomfortable because of me ogling her. My girlfriend answered in the affirmative and said that she wasn't offended by me. Her best friend didn't want to drop it, however, so I just yelled at her to shut up. The mood was ruined afterwards, and we went our separate ways. I texted my girlfriend that I was sorry for making her uncomfortable and that I wasn't being creepy on purpose. I just love her face. She told me not to worry about it. But the thing is, she must have told her friends something, or they wouldn't react so strongly. So she probably thinks and has discussed that I'm being a creep, or she hasn't told them anything, and they made the assessment all on their own, and that's even more worrying. What am I doing wrong here? I broke up with my girlfriend because of the Barbie movie. A few days ago, I watched Barbie with my girlfriend, and in Barbie and Ken's seemingly trivial, fantastical world, I found a life-altering realization that compelled me to end a relationship that had spanned 2 years of my life. It wasn't an easy decision to make. She was my rock. Those first few months leading up to us being together was like a delicate dance, as she was still healing from a past relationship. She was so unsure about being with me, probably for fear of repeating past mistakes, but she took the chance, and we grew together slowly. She even stopped talking to her ex after a year or so, since they had been good friends, regardless of the relationship they had. But circumstances brought them back in contact when his mother was hospitalized. She was too afraid to tell me, scared it might upset me. And while I know there was no infidelity involved, the lack of communication hurt me. She immediately stopped speaking to him from that moment over a year ago, and hasn't spoken to him since. As if that wasn't enough, 2 months after the incident, her parents were actively pushing her into a toxic marriage with a guy they favored. We had an understanding that she would tell me everything and keep her interactions with this guy to a bare minimum and keep it as dry as possible. But when I accidentally saw a 2-month-long snap streak with him on her phone, the old wounds were reopened. She thought she had already told me, but we both soon realized that she had completely forgotten about it. I know snap streaks seem like such a trivial issue, but in the grand scheme of things, it was pretty massive, considering the trials and tribulations we both had been through. I was left in a strange place, feeling as if I was constantly in the shadows of other men in her life, waiting for some level of openness that never really came. But through all of this, she remained my rock, my support. She was there for me during the grueling days of university, to job search, and everything else life threw at me. She was there for my family, always kind, always ready to help. Watching the Barbie movie was supposed to be an escape from reality, but it turned out to be the opposite. In Ken, I saw myself. He existed to serve Barbie, and without her, he felt empty and devoid of purpose. But throughout the movie, and after some unfortunate patriarchy, Barbie helps Ken discover his own worth, and realizes he is not defined by Barbie, but rather, he is enough just being himself. And believe it or not, this realization shook me. I've been clinging to the comfort and support she provided, blind to the mounting issues, but I had to face the truth. I was enough. My worth wasn't tied to her. My happiness wasn't dependent on her validation. She is a wonderful person, truly, but we had issues that we couldn't resolve, issues that were hurting us both, and all I add. Ryan Gosling jokes aside, I am like Ken, still searching for my purpose, my calling, but I know that I am enough. I'm not sure where I'll end up, but I have faith in the journey. She deserves the same chance to find her own way, without the weight of my expectations, or the shadows of her past. So here I am, a guy who realized his worth after watching a Barbie movie. It's strange how life lessons can come from the most unexpected places. It's been a challenging period, but I'm grateful for the insight. I'm ready to face the world as me, just me. I am Knuff. I kicked out my son for making dark humor TikToks about our daughter's death. My daughter 16 died 7 months ago in a car accident. The other driver was speeding and weaving in and out of traffic like a maniac on the highway, ultimately hitting my baby girl. The driver died on impact, but she died 6 hours later in the hospital due to her injuries. My wife and I attend individual therapy, as well as marriage counseling. It's been extremely hard for both of us, but we have made considerable progress given the circumstances. We begged our son to get therapy and go to family counseling with us, but he refused. He's 19 and in college, so we can't force him to go. Our therapist gave us a list of warning signs to look out for, and he seemed to be coping well with the loss. We decided to let him grieve in his own way. The issue is my wife discovered a video my son made that went viral on TikTok. It was reposted by another account. It was a dark humor video, before and after getting my driver's license, which was her school picture, and then a picture of her gravestone and totaled car. The 3,000 comments were extremely messed up and had similar jokes. We found his account, which had more than one video like this. Us Then versus Now, which had a baby photo of them and then cut to a selfie of him next to her hospital bed before she died. There were in total 5 different posts similar to this, each similarly more disgusting. My wife was inconsolable. She had a severe mental breakdown. I had to take her to the ER so she can be sedated and given fluids due to her vomiting and hyperventilating. I confronted my son, who defended himself saying he uses these videos to cope with her death. That dark humor is the way he grieves. I could barely look at him. I told him to pack his things and stay with his grandparents. He was angry and said, we both need to move the freak on and stop taking our grief out on him. It's been 2 weeks, and my wife doesn't want to be anywhere near my son anytime soon. I can't say I disagree. It's been about giant 10 steps back for both our grieving process. Our son gone was supposed to be temporary, but my wife and I think it's time for him move into an off-campus student apartment to give us all some space and establish boundaries. We haven't told him this yet, but plan to when he returns home next week. While he was away, he did apologize in a text to both my wife and I. However, he still insists it wasn't wrong for him to post those videos publicly for millions of people to see. He believes we are being too dramatic and taking it too personal. It took me threatening to disown him before he took down the videos. A few of my friends think we are going too far by essentially abandoning him and kicking him out of our home. They said to keep in mind he's still a stupid kid, and he's digging in his heels because he wants attention. We'll be paying for his rent, but he will have to cover the other costs himself, food, gas. Since that's the most we can afford right now, he will have to get a part-time job while going to class. We still love our son, but neither of us can handle this right now for the sake of our marriage and mental health. Honestly, I think I need to put my wife first here, and if that means he needs to leave, then I'll do that for her. Plus he's 19 turning 20 soon, so it's not like he's a child. Final update. I kicked out my son for making dark humor TikToks about our daughter's death. Firstly, I'd like to send a sincere thank you to everyone who not only commented, but read my original post. This is a very dark and vulnerable time for my family. We are lost, confused, and battling with a grief that has consumed us so entirely it hurts to physically breathe most days. Secondly, my son is a good man, son and brother. He loved and cherished his sister deeply, and I know in my heart that it was never his intention to make light of her death, nor would he ever intentionally hurt his mother, myself, or anyone. It's been an emotionally exhausting and draining last few hours for both my family and I. However, I am happy to provide a bittersweet update for all the wonderful people who took the time to read my original post. You all helped me realize I needed to act now and fast if I were to ever repair our family. I called my son on the phone after reading the comments. I asked him why he posted those videos. He said he was just hurting. We were quiet for a while. His voice broke when he asked if me and his mom still love him. I failed my son. I failed him. What he needed was a father who gave unconditional love, support and protection. He needed his dad. I was too stupid, selfish and angry to see he was hurting more deeply than any of us. We lost our daughter, but he had lost his sister. We needed him to be the strong, mature son for his broken parents, the brave one, the one to shoulder our pain. We took his cry for help as in kicking us while we were down. My wife and I immediately left to go pick him up and bring him home. What I saw was a broken little boy needing his mom and dad, not the pathological monster our grief painted him as. He had visible bags under his eyes and lost a lot of weight. We were too blind to see it. We both profusely apologized and will be showing him how sorry we are for the rest of our lives. We vowed to do right by him. We all cried together on the couch for a while. Our son is taking a year off of school to heal and work on his mental health by his request. He also agreed to attending weekly therapy. He will be home with us. We will also be seeing a family therapist. My wife is seeking medication to get a handle on her panic attacks. I signed up for a grief support group specifically for fathers. This is all just a start for a very long and difficult journey ahead of us. Thank you everyone for giving me a major kick in the butt and a wake-up call. I may have lost a daughter, but I will not be losing my son. Not now or ever again. To every single user who upvoted, read, commented, or private messaged me on the post, thank you. I am eternally grateful. You all saved my family and prevented my wife and I from making the biggest mistake of our lives. I will be still reading all the new comments pouring in. This community can move mountains and affect the lives of real people facing real issues. I've learned a lot about what grief means for different people. No one's grief is invalid or wrong, and everyone handles it differently. This is a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. This morning I am making pancakes and bacon while my son and my wife watch Netflix in the family room. The windows are open. Our daughter's cat actually came out of her room on her own for the first time to lay on the couch with them. Our lazy Saturday. It's the first time in months we did this since our daughter passed. It feels bittersweet, different. My girlfriend accidentally fell asleep cuddling her guy friend in his bed and said nothing happened. Last Friday, my 23M girlfriend 23F told me she was going out with a few friends. We don't always go out together, so this wasn't unusual for her to do, and I've never had a problem with it until now. So later on that night, her messages became less and less frequent until they stopped altogether. At this point, I was slightly concerned, but again, I trust her, so I left it for an hour or so, presuming she was just having a good night. A couple hours had passed, and it was 3 a.m., and there was still no answer, so I called her to see if she was okay or coming home soon. Again, no answer. I called her twice more, no answer. The fourth time, she picked up already in the Uber home. I asked her where she'd been, and she said she'd been at her male friend's place. We will call Harry. Harry 25M has been friends with my GF since they met at work 3 or so years ago. They've always been close, but she has assured me they have never and would never hook up. The few times I've hung out with them, they seem friendly, but I've never been too concerned with their relationship. Anyway, when she got home, I tried to ask her about her night, but she was too intoxicated and passed out in bed. The next day, I asked her again about her night, and she told me she never ended up going out, and instead went over to Harry's house for some drinks. I asked if a couple of her other usual friends went too, but no, it was just her and Harry. I then asked her why it took so long for her to get back to me, and why was she at his house so late in the first place. Throughout the discussion, it came out that she had fallen asleep cuddling him in his bed, but to not worry about it, because he's just a friend. Nothing happened, and I should just stop overthinking all the time, completely dismissing my concerns. Now I'm at work not knowing what to do or think. Is she right? Am I just overthinking, and they're just friends, or am I right in feeling uneasy about her falling asleep in another guy's bed, or worse if something else happened? My wife's friend answered the door in her underwear. The other day, I 35M went to pick up an item my child had left at a friend's house. My wife is very good friends with the child's mother 37F. We have had them over for gatherings, and I've also been to their home. When I went to retrieve the item my son had left, she answered the door in her underwear wearing an open button-down shirt. I was surprised since I had never seen her like this. She told me to come in and didn't seem alarmed at all. She didn't even attempt to close the button-down shirt. She then walks over the desk and bent over to pick up the item, the back of the button-down rising, exposing her rear to me. The item was not on the ground, and I felt like it was excessive to bend over so far. She handed me the item and then naturally just asked me what we had planned for the day. I answered politely but kept it short. Am I crazy, or was the interaction intentional? I spoke to my wife about it, and she said she probably thought I was going to pick it up. Don't flatter yourself. She wasn't alarmed for me to see her like this, but I feel like it was intentional, and I feel like she was trying to keep me there longer by talking with me. If the roles were reversed and it was her husband and my wife, I don't think I would be happy about it. Am I the a-hole for walking out of my sister's wedding after finding out why my son was excluded? My sister 30F got married yesterday. I 32M was so happy for her and agreed to help her out. She told me that the wedding was child-free, which I understand, so I asked my best friend if there was any way he could watch my son, and he agreed. I arrived at the wedding and found that it was not child-free. There were probably 15 children there. I was confused, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I waited until my sister came over to me and I asked her what the deal was. What she told me broke my heart, and I don't know how I can look at her the same way again. She confessed that my son 12M was excluded because he has an amputated leg. She said that it would draw attention to him at the wedding. I almost lost it. I could understand if he was going to be disruptive or something, but because of that, I didn't trust myself in that moment, so I just walked out and went home. When I got home, my son asked me why I was back so early, so I made up some excuse and then spent the rest of the day having fun with him because it was the only thing keeping me sane. Since then, I've been getting dozens of messages from people saying how me leaving caused my sister to start crying and the whole wedding was ruined. But I honestly don't care right now. I'm a mess. I'm a single dad, so I don't have someone to help me right now. But these messages are actually making me wonder.
I used to hate my husband, but now I think I'm in love with him. I know the title is exactly how it sounds. I'm 27F and my husband 27M have been married since we were 18 years old. At the age of 9, my family promised me away to our family friend's son. I have dreaded my birthdays ever since. 1 year closer to marriage and 1 year closer from being stripped of my freedom. While I was counting down the years, I met a guy. He made me happy, made me forget about ever having to worry at all. Eventually, I turned 18, and I met my husband for the first time. I hated him. Looking at him made my blood boil, because I had already loved someone. We got married 2 days after meeting. After the wedding, we didn't do anything. I remember sitting down on the honeymoon bed. He walked in and said, "I do not love you, nor do you love me, so let's have an open relationship." I didn't argue and told him okay. I was happy because that means I could see the guy I was so desperately in love with. But we had rules. We could never have fun time in the bedroom. We must always sleep in the same bed. No talking bad about each other to our partners and more basic things. So every year after that, we put on the same act. A loving husband and wife at family gatherings after we went off with our partners. Me and my boyfriend were doing very good. While my husband never dated, only one-night stands, a couple of years passed, and I thought everything was going okay till I found out. My boyfriend had been cheating on me with a friend from high school. Ironic, I know. I went home and cried. My husband came into the bedroom where I was crying, asking me if I was all right, even though I hated him. I told him everything and he held me there for what seems like hours. After that, me and husband got closer. I took a break from dating while my husband still did one-night stands. We started keeping each other company. We did movie nights, game nights, and he took me dancing. Then he stopped going on one-night stands. I never asked. A couple nights ago when I was getting snacks for our movie, I walked in and saw him deleting all the dating apps he was on. I didn't mention it. I sat down with the snacks and he scooted closer until our shoulders were touching. I felt a little nervous and fluttery like a teenager on their first date. He got a work call late night and promised he'd be back as soon as he could. I fell asleep on the couch, and when I woke up, I was in the bed with my husband cuddling me. I was very flustered by this, and after that, it has never been the same. This man that I hated so much, the man I cursed for years before I got married, turned out to the exact opposite of what I thought he was. It's like I have a school crush. I can't believe it took all these years for me to realize that it is not his fault that I was promised promised away. He was also promised away to a stranger, so I could imagine how he feels. My husband started bringing me flowers and gifts. He tells me it's 'cause he just thought it would be nice. We began staying up all night together and sleeping until almost noon. He bought me an engagement ring upgrade and cuddles me to sleep when he used to be on the other side of the bed. I think I'm in love with him and don't know how to tell him. Part 2 update. I used to hate my husband, but now I think I'm in love with him. I have some bad news. Me and my husband have to fly back to our home country for funeral planning. His mother unfortunately has passed away. She died of a stroke. My husband hasn't stopped crying. I'm doing the best I can for him. He's sleeping beside me. He refuses to let me get up at all. We've been in bed all day. And I have to use the bathroom, but I can't use the bathroom because he bear hugs me. Whenever I try to leave the bed, my husband said something earlier today that caught me off guard. He was talking about children and continuing bloodlines. We have never had a serious talk about children or our relationship because it was usually always us ignoring each other or running off with our partners. He told me he wanted children and for us to raise them. I still have a lot to think about, especially since we have never said I love you to one another. That's the only update for now, but I'll update in a week's notice or maybe a little longer because I need to take care of him for the meanwhile. But I never imagined this post getting so much attention. It was really just an event post because I had no one to tell. Thank you for all of the support. Part 3 update. I used to hate my husband, but now I think I'm in love with him. My husband thinks I'm hot. After I made my first official update, we flew back to Pakistan for the funeral. His mother was the glue of his family. I saw his father crying over her casket as they carried her to her grave. It was very hard to watch. My family was there as well. My father and my husband's father were in the military together for a long time. So to see my father trying to pull him off the casket so they could bury her was truly heartbreaking. After the funeral, we went home. My husband was in bed for days straight, refusing to eat, move, or do anything. I had to spoon feed him because he will not die of starvation on my watch. Eventually, he began walking the house, talking more and eating more. I booked him his first counseling meeting last week, and he's been more verbal with his feelings. He will begin working from home in a couple days. He suggests that I also start working from home so we can be closer. We haven't talked much about that though. I took my husband out to a restaurant so he doesn't lose his ability to socialize properly. I told him over dinner how I have been thinking about us spending some time apart so he doesn't become only dependent on me, to say the least. When we got home, he went crazy. He said it wasn't even an option. What I said made him so upset, he didn't speak to me for a day. We sat down and he talked about his feelings. For nearly 2 whole hours, he was talking about our arranged marriage, parents, open relationship, and past partners. He admitted that he hated my ex-partner for more reasons than one, but never said anything about it. He told me he likes the way I dress, the way I do my hair, and he overall thinks I'm hot. I busted out laughing because in our home country, when we first got married, all the women said that he was too good looking for me. It was a very funny night. We went back and forth telling stories. I told him about the Reddit post I made, and he read it. He also read the update I made. He told me he thinks he is in love with me too. And he might go make a Reddit post titled, "Used to hate my wife, but she's too hot to hate." We read the comments, and his favorite one was, "I think you should ask your husband to start officially dating." We laughed the whole night. He wants us to renew our vows and do a whole new wedding ceremony. I told him he was crazy, and we would have to tell our parents the truth if we ever did that. To say the least again, we video called our parents and told them the truth. We started at what happened on our honeymoon night, to us deciding not to have an open relationship anymore. They were very pissed, but would allow us to redo the ceremony, but we would have to do it in Pakistan. My husband automatically agreed, and we will do the ceremony in the beginning of the new year. Even though my husband is happy right now, I can tell he is still grieving. So what we are doing mostly is counseling, working and trying to improve our home life with each other. I've talked to his father to see how he is doing. He's been staying with my parents for the past week. May Allah's blessing be upon him. Also, can we stop only referring arranged marriages to the fanfics many of you read? I found it very disrespectful, not only to me but my culture, and especially the amount of people put into arranged marriages. Thank you for the support, and thank you for waiting for this update. I hope it wasn't disappointing to most of you.
My roommate locked me out of our apartment after I told her their funtime noise were too loud and to stop bringing guys over. I 24F have had my roommate 25F for 6 months. We got along pretty well and quickly became friends. First 3 months we respected the other's boundaries and didn't have any issues regarding that. But for the last 3 months she had been constantly bringing guys over 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes she will bring the same guy over, but most of the time it's a new one. I don't have any problem with her being promiscuous, but the noises she makes has been distracting me. I'm on my way to getting my business degree and I need to study at night. I do work sometimes at night and I don't get home until 4 in the morning. The screaming, the moaning, the bangings, all the sounds is creating huge distractions for me and I don't have anywhere else I can go for peace and quiet. If I did, I wouldn't be having her as my roommate. I've tried to wear noise-canceling headphones and I could still hear the noises. I also can't raise the volume because I don't want to ruin my hearing. It finally got to the point that I told her she has to stop bringing guys over, at least at night, because I can't concentrate with all the noise. She said she can't bring them over daytime because she's busy during the day. We argued for 10 minutes during which I offered that she can just do it more quietly, but she only said that being quiet during funtime makes the entire experience worthless. At the end, I firmly told her that she either stops bringing guys over altogether or she has to move out. This is where she started calling me a selfish bitch who is jealous that she gets so many guys. And the last time I had fun time was 3 months ago because I'm stuck in a relationship with a guy who lives in the UK. We live in New York, and said that I won't be able to make rent without her, which is true, but then again, she won't be able to either because we both pay half rent each. So it ended with me going into her room to throw her stuff out, but she hit me in the face, pushed me out of the apartment, and locked me out. I called my brother to ask him if he could come and help me, but he said I'm making a big deal out of nothing and I should just apologize. To add, my name is on the lease. Edit. I've had a roommate before her for 2 years, until she moved down to the West Coast, and the one time she thought she was having fun time too loud, she apologized the next morning, and I had no problem with that because it was just normal volume for fun time. I told her she didn't need to apologize and she can just enjoy doing whatever. I absolutely have no jealousy towards my current roommate. I've tolerated her behavior for 3 months. I've told her multiple times to either be more quiet or bring less guys. She would do that for a couple of days and then she's again loud as hell. I may have overreacted by going to throw her stuff out, but I didn't even touch or grab anything. I just set one foot in her room and that's when she hit me. I was able to afford rent on my apartment before, but the rent has increased to a price that could barely afford, and that's why I got roommates.
I looked through my GF's phone the other night and I regret it. The other night, my girlfriend fell asleep next to me, and she left her phone under my pillow. She turned over the other way, and I usually don't look through her phone, but in a moment of weakness, I picked it up and began to look through her messages. I typed my name into the search bar on iMessage and saw some really messed up messages about me between her and her friends. Recently, we had an argument and she texted her friends saying she could find another BF in 2 minutes. She even texted her best friend a few weeks before that saying she is way out of my league and proceeding to say,
I know it's shallow, but it's true, lol.
I did read some more stuff she tells her friends about me after we have arguments or disagreements, but I'll stop right there. Honestly, it really hurts to see one of the people I love most talk about me that way. It makes me feel like she does not really love me for who I am or like she is settling for me. It hurts even more knowing that I would never talk about her or say anything similar about her to my friends. I'm thinking of breaking up with her.
My boyfriend's family gave away my vacation that I paid for without me knowing. My boyfriend of 5 years and his family plus myself were set to go on a cruise. He helped book the tickets, flight, etc., and I paid them back, almost $1,000. Well, come weeks before said vacation, he and I break up. We share a lease until a few months after, so I stay. Things were neutral for a while, and we still care for one another, go out to eat, etc., but a week before, we get in a fight and I leave to go home because they blow up on me, and I was feeling uneasy. Home is several states away. I spend some time with family, 6 days, get ready for the vacation and decompress. He stays in contact with me during this time, asking me to come back and whatnot. We exchange amicable texts and a few calls, but I never slept. I am coming home to be with them again, or give it another go. 2 days before the cruise, I come back to our apartment, and he asks why. I said, for my vacation I paid for. He explains while I was gone, they gave away my tickets 2 days prior. I'm upset, but he says they can't just change it again, since it's too late. His family tells me it's my fault for being melodramatic, and that I moved away and should have told them I was coming back. I argued I wasn't aware they were involved in our fight. They tell me this is the consequences of my actions, and I learned a lesson. They gave the ticket to a younger cousin 18M and canceled my flight. I calm down and ask when I will be getting my money back. His family says there's no money to give back as the trip was non-refundable about a month ago. They said, sorry, but again tell me, I should have been the adult and contacted them. I'm conflicted. Boyfriend and I talked, but I am still jaded about my trip. He and family still go. He tried to cancel that first, but I urged them to go anyway, so they don't also lose the money. I just want my money someone else is using to go on vacation with. I want to take the family to small claims court, particularly the person managing the cruise tickets who changed mine without my consent. I don't know if I have a case though. I feel dumb and hurt. My family keeps telling me I'm being used and am too nice. That's why they push over me. They also want me to move back permanently, since this shows how much they don't care for me, as none of them contacted to check up on me before making that decision. I don't know. Can someone help me?
My wife invited me to sleep with other people twice. Am I the a-hole for taking it seriously? My 15-year marriage has been difficult, in some ways. We work well as a couple, and we have great kids, but there's been emotional drama, and our fun time life has been tepid for a long time. My wife 43F almost never initiates fun time, and usually rebuffs my attempts. We have fun time monthly, give or take. A year and a half ago, out of nowhere she said that I could have slept with other people. It was totally unexpected and unprompted. I was shocked, and she really pushed it, like,
really, I mean it. You can.
I responded that I didn't want to sleep with anyone but her, and we dropped it. Then 6 weeks ago, she said it again, and really pushed it again. And again I was surprised, and said that I didn't want to sleep with anyone else, but the second time I said that, it wasn't really true. The truth is that when she first offered that I could sleep with other people, it unlocked something in me. I started thinking of other women as potential fun time partners, and thinking a lot more about fun time. And recently, I made a friend. Let's call her Anne. We were part of a local interest group, and then we started meeting one-on-one every week. I told my wife about her and that we were friends, but it became increasingly clear that Anne was interested in me more than a friend. Last week, Anne came right out and said that she'd sleep with me if I wanted. I told Anne that I was attracted to her, but that I was married and I cared about my family, but also that my wife had said I could sleep with other people, that I didn't understand why my wife said it, and that I'd talk to my wife about whether she really meant it. A few days later, I had the conversation with my wife. It went poorly. I told her that I loved her, loved sleeping with her, and wouldn't put our marriage at risk, but also that I was thinking of taking her up on the sleeping with other people thing if she was really okay with it, and I told her about Anne's proposition. My wife was deeply hurt. She thinks I betrayed her by building a relationship with another woman, and she doesn't think I had her permission to do that. She says that the first time she offered that I could sleep around, she actually wanted to sleep with someone else and was testing the waters, and that she didn't go through with it after I said no. When she repeated the offer 6 weeks ago, she says our relationship was in a completely different place from where it is today, and she thought that offering me to sleep with other people was the only way to save our marriage. This explanation does not ring true for me at all. For what it's worth, In both cases, since I had told her that I wasn't interested in other fun-time partners, she thinks the offer was dead. And I was wrong to think it could still be on the table. I never kissed Anne, never said I loved her, never even held her hand, and I've now told her that we need to remain just friends. I think my wife gave me permission to sleep around, and that I went above and beyond by talking to her instead of taking her up on it. But she thinks I betrayed her, and she's now saying she wants a divorce. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for canceling vacation less than 24 hours in due to my kids' behavior? My husband and I have 3 kids, boy 9, boy 8, and girl 3. The boys have been driving us crazy. They fight like cats and dogs. We've had countless talks with them about respecting each other, to no avail. I understand sibling rivalry, but it's gotten to the point it's disruptive to us all every day. I already told my husband last week I wasn't sure if the vacation was a good idea. My husband shut me down pretty much immediately and things went ahead as planned. First of all, the 3.5-hour car ride was predictably hell. Boys fighting and riling each other up the whole time. Husband and I kept trying to reassure each other that things would be better once we got there and they would be too excited to cause trouble. We were wrong. They had so many reminders of what not to do once we got to the rental house. So they do everything wrong from the get-go. Shoes on the white furniture? Check. Running in the house? Check. I turned my back for 2 seconds and the 8-year-old threw a box of chalk in the pool to keep his brother from getting it. We went out to lunch and they were out of control in the restaurant. 9-year-old ran away from us in a strange place because he didn't get his way. We finally go to the beach and they are frankly being brats. Refusing sunscreen, fighting over toys, pushing their luck repeatedly, going farther and farther out in the water than we told them to. Cursing. By the time we got back to the house, it was around dinner time and I was fed up. They were totally ruining it for everybody. Nothing had worked and I told my husband we needed to go home, for the reasons mentioned above, mainly that they needed to see a real consequence. My husband still insisted it would get better. I put my foot down and told him that I didn't even want to be there at that point, so either I was leaving, or we all were. He got super pissed and told me it was ridiculous and unfair to our daughter. I actually agree with him but saw no other choice at this point. Of course, when I tell the kids, they immediately burst into tears and are begging to stay, promising they will behave. My mother, who came with us, was also near tears. She thinks her precious grandbabies do no wrong. She argued with me too, begging me to just let it go, but I refused to budge. So, we left, less than 24 hours into a 4-day vacation. Half the ride home was spent with them sobbing, and my husband pretty much gave me the silent treatment the whole way. My mother decided to stay behind a little longer, but then started randomly texting me about 30 minutes in, asking if I was serious. She knew I was, and told me the whole reason she came was to spend time with the kids, so I had now ruined it for everybody and their only little ones. Here we are, following evening, and pretty much no one likes me right now except my 3-year-old. Are they right? Am I the a-hole? My partner and I both cheated on each other with the same person. Me 21F and my partner Emma 23F have been dating for a little over 3 years. Both of us are close friends with this girl, Vanessa 21F, who is considerably attractive, and has previously hinted that she likes me as more than just a friend. One day, Vanessa sent me a couple noodles of herself out of the blue. This was during a time when Emma and I were having a major fight and agreed to go no contact for a bit. I was feeling particularly lonely and selfish, so I sent some back, and it all went downhill from there. We then texted intimately for a week or so, and eventually ended up sleeping together. I immediately regretted it after the fact, and didn't know what to do. This was 2 weeks ago. Fast forward to yesterday. I still hadn't confessed my infidelity. Vanessa adds all 3 of us to a shared group chat and immediately sends out a bunch of screenshots and evidence of me cheating. I'm so screwed, I thought. I started panicking when Vanessa suddenly sends out even more screenshots, except these showcased Emma sending her noodles and discussing how they had fun time and how amazing it was. Vanessa then leaves group chat. Needless to say, I was in shock. Neither Emma nor I said anything to one another until the end of the day. She showed up at my apartment, 10 p.m., but wasn't mad. Instead of talking about what had happened, we just cuddled on my couch for a couple hours, as if everything was fine. At some point, she said, "We need to be in an open relationship." I agreed with her, and that was that. We eventually fell asleep in each other's arms afterwards. We woke up this morning, exchanged a few "I love yous," and started our day. Neither the cheating incident nor the big fight before that have been addressed, and something tells me that they never will be. I had to type this out because I can't stop thinking about how we are both incredibly toxic individuals, yet somehow perfect for each other. Edit for clarity, both my partner and I have severe bipolar and a lot of other mental health issues. I'm personally very impulsive and have a tendency to do harmful things without putting much thought into them. We do happen to be in therapy though. We've both experienced a lot of toxic or abusive relationships in the past and have previously cheated on each other. This is why the cheating itself wasn't that surprising to either of us. It was more so the fact that we cheated with the same person. I also want to clarify that by open relationship, she meant that we should be able to sleep with other people, not date them.
My best friend's sister gave me a job, but now I'm conflicted. So I, 24M, have a best friend since the 4th grade named Jake, 24M. Jake and I have been locked like that, been through a lot. Dude is my bro, demanding here know what I'm talking about. He has a little sister, Hannah, 21F. I've never seen her in any sort of light other than, oh, that's my bro little sister and that's it. Well, she was celebrating her 21st last weekend and I saw her out with her friends. I was also out with a dude from work. I ran into her and told her I'd buy her a drink for her 21st. We did a shot as well, and I asked her how she was getting home, and she said, "We'll probably Uber." And I told her, worst comes to worst, text me and I'll bring you home. It's about 12:30 at night, and she texted asking me for a ride. And so I went and got her. We sat and talked in my truck. She brought up that she was talking to a guy who was being inconsistent and asked my opinion on it. Eventually, she mentioned she liked my belt. It was just a normal belt I wear for work, but she said, "I've always liked a man with a belt and boots," and I thought nothing of it. Well, she made the move by putting her hand down my pants. I was taken aback and told her chill out, and she just pushed me back into my seat and told me to chill. She started giving me a job and then moved into Gawk 3000 when I was about to climax. I told her and she just kept going. I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, but the women legitimately sucked the soul out of me. After I regathered myself, I brought her home, and she said, "I'll text you," and she winked. As a person, man, friend, I feel like crap. I feel like I betrayed my bro, and I really don't know how he'd react if I told him. I also don't want to make it a public thing because people will ask me about it, and people will tease him about it. I also was talking to someone who I really liked and was exclusive with days before this happened, and now I feel like crap for that too. All in all, I'm a mess, and I literally can't tell anyone without it getting blown up, so thanks for letting me vent. I've realized my wife is a predator, and I'm the alien. Just kidding, forget about the last part. I never used to really think too much about it or find it weird, but seeing my daughter grow up, it's been harder to ignore. She's 13, and it kind of finally dawned on me how wrong our relationship is. I haven't said anything yet, and don't know how to really deal with it. My high school had I guess you could call it a mentor program, where they had some older students come help the new ones adjust to high school. The idea was that we would be able to talk to older students about things and get advice that teachers wouldn't, though it wasn't intensive or huge or anything. I had just started high school, so I would have been 12, while she was 18. I was a shy kid and struggled with school, but she basically took me under her wing. No other mentor student acted like she did, but she made it seem like it was about helping me. She first said I reminded her of herself when she was younger, while later on she would say it's because she loved me. It started normal, but slowly got more inappropriate. When I was 14, we started secretly dating, and started openly dating when I was 16. We married and had our daughter at 19. My parents didn't care. They liked her, and still do. They think I'm lucky to have a wife like her. For me, it all seemed so normal. I loved her. I still love her so much. Our relationship has been so happy. Yet just imagining it happening to my daughter makes me feel so disgusted. The more I think about it, the more conflicted I feel. I love her. I'm so happy with her. I don't want to lose her, but I feel so angry and disgusted. I don't know how she could do that, but then I can't imagine life without her and especially our daughter. It feels so horrible, but it's not like I can do anything about it. I don't even know if I want to. It's just not fair. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend that I told her so? After one of her male friends tried to get with her, my girlfriend and I have been together for about a year now. My girlfriend has more than a few guy friends. I'm not one of those guys that thinks men and women can't be friends. However, with two of these guys, it's very clear that they want more than just friendship from her. Like clear as day, to the point where I don't get how she doesn't see it. If I can notice just by the weird energy they try to exude when I'm present, she should be able to get too, right? Wrong. Anytime I have pointed this out, she gets upset with me. She tells me that I am being jealous and reading into things that aren't there. I argue back that I'm just letting her know, and as a guy, I can probably tell much better than she can, since women tend to be a little slow regarding things like this. So 2 nights ago, she was hanging out with her friends and this guy was present. From what she told me, they were all drinking and he said some things that implied he'd want to be with her. She was made uncomfortable by this and the night ended shortly after. Fast forward to yesterday morning. She got a series of texts apologizing for what he said, and then backpedaling and saying he would treat her so much better than me, and she's wasting her time with me. She of course said no and was upset with him. After she told me, I just read the texts and simply said, "Wow, who could have seen this coming?" a bit sarcastically. This set her off and she got mad. She said that I was being such a huge a-hole to her, and she had no way of seeing this coming. She's been pissed at me since. I may be the a-hole because this very clearly upset her. I get that sarcasm when someone is already a little upset has a chance of making it worse, but I was just trying to be funny. However, she viewed this as me kicking her while she was down. I just found out my girlfriend cheated on me with her boss. Pretty depressed, not going to lie. I 27 and just found out my girlfriend 29 cheated on me with her boss a couple of months back. She's been inappropriately texting him ever since, which is how I caught her. She's been sending him photos, while he's been responding describing how he's getting off to them. I actually think this is worse than their actual fun time, to be honest, not sure why. When I confronted her, she broke down and said all she ever wanted was me, and that the reason she did it is for attention, which I understand. I haven't been the best partner, but I'm not sure if I deserve this. She has a lot riding on me, including a visa. I'm so hurt by this, but I'm just as mad at myself as I am at her. I don't want to punish her, but I cannot get the messages I read out of my head. She swears she was going to tell me, but I don't believe her. Anyway, not after advice, just wanted to vent. I have no one to talk about this to. My wife of 2 years cheated with childhood friend, then accused me of assault. I 32 had been married for 2 years to what I thought was the love of my life. 32 we have been together for 4 years now. We have a 1-year-old and live in a house that I own. During the day, I'm the CEO of a tech company that brings upwards of $5 million revenue a month. Now I would like to say that I have showed her love through all the time we were together. She said she was bisexual, and I didn't mind. She's a stay-at-home mom. Before, she used to work as an assistant, and it was her idea to have children, which at first I wasn't much supportive of, because I felt like with my job, I wouldn't be able to be there for my child when he needed me. So she decided to quit her job to become a full-time mom, which made the idea more pleasing. Her childhood friend, let's call her Sarah, crashed at our house 3 months ago, since she got fired from her job and was job hunting and wanted to reduce the cost of living. So we let her live with us for the time being. At this point, I didn't think much of anything. I know how hard it can be job searching, so I wanted her to focus on it while staying with us. We needed somebody to stay with our child if we ever decided to go out, and at the same time, it was my wife's childhood friend, so it was up to her really. 1 month into her stay, she started hitting on me, touching me everywhere, making very suggestive remarks about my body or anything really, and just overall very dirty interactions when wife was not around. When I told wife about it, she gaslighted me and told me that I'm overreacting. I don't think it's overreacting when your wife's girlfriend smacks your rear for no reason. Well, here I have to admit that I wasn't affectionate to my wife during this period. The job was exhausting me, as we were racking the most money we ever did at the time. One time when I was working on my computer, Sarah came to me while my wife was taking care of the baby and put her arms around me and said,
"What are you doing?"
I told her to get off me, which she responded with,
Relax, I'm just checking on you.
So I stood up and pushed her and her arms away from me, and she fell on the ground and started crying and calling for my wife. Wife then came as fast as possible, almost as if she knew what was happening. Sarah accused me of touching and squeezing her knockers, then pushing her to the ground, which never happened. What would my wife of 2 years and the mother of my child do? Start berating me and calling the cops on me. Now these two biatch didn't realize one thing. I have hidden cameras around the house. See, I didn't trust that her friend would do a great job in looking over our child. So I set up hidden cameras and made sure they didn't find out about them. They were cheating on me, and I knew for at least a month. Before this incident, I was just trying to build a case with my lawyer, just so we can benefit the most out of the situation. I wanted to keep the house and have full custody of my child, so we decided to let it play out. Now, without going into much details, I was arrested after the cops were called because my wife lied as well and said I beat her too, that I had a maniac episode and did all that. All of what happened was caught on cam. Again, I can't mention more than this at this point, though we're working on the case with my lawyer right now. I ghosted my fiancé because I found out what she did. I was just an option early on in our relationship. We did distance early in our relationship for reference. I was away a decent amount for work but eventually got to be home more. I never even considered breaking my commitment to her. We got engaged a little over a month ago, dated for about a year prior. About 2 weeks ago, I was borrowing her MacBook for some studying. She's working on her master's, was in class at the time. I saw a text pop up from her best friend whom I don't really like. She's a bad influence in my opinion. Enough said. Regardless, my nosy self goes through their messages backdating to when we first started dating. We became exclusive days after meeting for the first time. It was her idea because she didn't want me being with anyone else while I was away for work. So anyway, to keep this fairly short, there were 2 other guys I know of for sure she entertained enough to go out with, kiss, made out all night in her words, sent pictures to, and brag about it to her best friend I don't care for. Oh, and let's not forget she spent the night with one too. She never sent noodles or anything over text even to me, but a lot of the pictures she sent me, they also got. I confronted her when she got back from class, and she made excuses for everything and shamed me for going through her messages. I know I shouldn't have, but either curiosity or instincts from back then got to me. She admitted she kissed one of the guys one night. She got too drunk and slept in the same bed, but fully clothed in her words. Who knows? I slept on the couch that night. I was so pissed. My mind was made up right then and there I was going to leave. If she's going to do that early on in our relationship, I can't honestly trust her ever again. A few days go by and I make it seems like I'm good and over it just to buy time to collect myself. I got myself situated and made up some BS story that I wanted to get her engagement ring engraved while she was in class. She agreed. The next day, while she was in class, I packed myself up and drove to a close friend's place to crash, blocked her on everything. It's been over a week of no communication. I don't plan to communicate further at all, to be honest. And I honestly just need to get it out there. Feeling like I'm getting in my head. I felt so betrayed as I was always so low and committed, enough to put a ring on her finger. Now I'm just chilling. Not sure where I'm at emotionally, trying to stay productive and keep my mind off it, coming to Reddit for validation or something I guess lol. Side note. Anyone interested in a 18K rose gold 1.5 total carat diamond band? Edit 2. I left a letter explaining why and how I can no longer have trust for our relationship, immature or whatever. It's done and I'm learning from it.
My husband keep eating the meal his work wife prepared over mine. I said I will not cook for him anymore. Hear me out. My husband, Jesse 31, has been bringing home meals that his female co-worker, Nellie, cook for him. Now I'm not the best cook, and Jesse's made it clear, but he still eats what I cook every day. What I noticed with Nellie was that she tends to take every opportunity to point out how weak and tasteless my cooking is. Jesse would say nothing, except steer the conversation towards something else they both relate to, while I'm sitting there wallowing in my misery thinking about what she said. Also, she once asked what was another chore I was good at, and Jesse said ironing his suits. She in response joked about having him send her a suit of his, so he could see how good she is at ironing too. I rolled my eyes hard, but at least Jesse agreed that was weird. Last week, Jesse came home with a new meal she cooked. I told him I already cooked dinner and asked what he was going to do with the meal. He told me he was going to eat it for dinner. Not gonna lie, I was getting a bit irritated, and he must have had noticed, because he said he promised Nellie he'd eat hers for dinner and that she asked him to take a pic of the empty plate later to confirm that he'd actually eaten it. I was baffled, like completely baffled at this. I told him one thing and one thing only. Told him that if he chose to eat Nellie's meal over the dinner I cooked, then this would be the last time I cook for him. He started moaning about how I was being unfair and putting him in a rough place. He stalled and didn't give a clear answer, till I saw him walk past me later when I set the table and prepared dinner, and put her meal in the microwave. I felt so awful, I almost cried. I then told him that from now on out, I won't cook for him anymore since he made his choice. I obviously pissed him off because he went off on me calling me childish and pathetic to make this about my ego. I got up from my chair and told him I owed him nothing and that he made his decision and so did I. He snapped and said that this was ridiculous and that Nellie was just doing a nice thing for him, while as my behavior was disgraceful and disgusting. He then went into the bedroom, and I rushed after him, but he shouted,
"Leave me the freak alone!"
Then proceeded to shut the door and hasn't been speaking to me after that. His mom knew about the argument and called begging me to be more patient and not make any decisions I might regret later. She agreed that Nellie was overstepping and firmly believes she's the problem, and so I shouldn't be hard on her son. But mother-in-law is incredibly biased, meaning in her eyes, her son is a saint who can do no wrong. So that's that. I feel like I overreacted and really messed it up when I pushed him like that. Am I the a-hole? My husband's family doesn't approve of me. Today, his mother tried to end me. I, 25F, and my husband, 27M, have been in a loving relationship for almost 6 years. We got married around 1 year ago, on our 5-year anniversary, and the backlash from his family has been excessive. They mostly insulted my appearance, saying I'm an ugly S, and how my husband deserves better than a W who is using him, and is going to leave him in a year or 2 for another man. Although my husband has never believed these allegations, it's gotten to the point where I can tell he's starting to become suspicious of me. Lately, he's been very insecure about himself. He always asks me to check my messages, and whenever he sees me texting another man like a coworker, he gets incredibly agitated until I show him that the chat is mostly professional. He's also been asking me questions about random men I see on social media like, would you sleep with him if you had the chance? And, do you think he's hotter than me? I can tell that his family's words are influencing him, as we've never had that type of problem before. I decided that with time, he'd gain more trust for me and stop asking these questions. But a week ago, he invited his mom over. We've had several conversations and arguments about how I don't like his mom, and we came to a mutual agreement that if his mom was staying over, he'd defend me if she said anything bad about me. And while he did, eventually he had to go to the bathroom, and his mom took the chance to unleash her rage on me. She kept calling me terrible names and making jokes that imply that I've cheated on my husband. I got very upset at these jokes and finally, I decided to stick up for myself. We got in an argument about why she doesn't trust me, where she called me even worse names, and it got very heated. My husband intervened in the middle of it and defended me until her mom took her stuff and left. Not long after, I started crying. My husband had to comfort me and tell me his mom didn't mean that stuff and she was just looking out for him. I wish that was the case. Yesterday, I ran into his mom on the way to the store. I was already very nervous to see her, as this was an empty street where not many cars ever come through, and it got even worse when she initiated small talk. The conversation slowly got more aggressive until eventually she started yelling at me, calling me a dirty S and attacking me. She eventually picked up a glass bottle from the floor and threw it at me, shattering into tiny pieces and impaling my skin. I was very bloody and decided to run away, but she managed to catch up to me as I'm not a very fast runner. She tripped me and attacked me until I passed out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. I had to get many stitches and I had fractured my ankle. I guess some pedestrians had seen me laying there hurt and decided to call for help. My husband husband was there, asking me what happened. When I explained the entire story to him, he seemed skeptical. He looked at me suspiciously, and I could tell he was doubting the story. He said he'd talk to his mother and sort this issue out. He hasn't contacted me since then, and I'm very worried. I'm still in the hospital while typing this. I don't know what to do. I've tried contacting my husband many times, but he hasn't responded. I don't know if I did something wrong or if he believes his mom more than me, but I need advice. Edit. For everyone asking, I live in Egypt. And thank you for all of the kind words in the comments. I really appreciate it. I still haven't decided on what I'll do, but I will update you all when I decide.
My wife pretended to be me and did my work while I was sick. We're both software engineers working from home, which is why this was even possible to pull off in the first place. I'm a full-stack developer while she's a front-end developer, but she pretty much has all the knowledge she needs to do the same work as I do. She would sometimes sit with me while I would work, and help me debug lines and lines of code, which I appreciate a lot, and I do the same in return when I can. But today she really surprised me. So, I caught a nasty cold last night and I didn't take a sick day off today because my team and I have a lot of pressure from our boss to complete our current project as soon as possible. I told my wife this and she told me to just focus on getting better and she'd handle the rest. I should mention that her job doesn't require her to work at any particular time. She's just given a task or two to complete, and since she's efficient, she'd finish within a couple of hours and be free for the rest of the day. Today, she was free all morning, so she locked herself in my office and started doing my work. She made an excuse in my team's group chat pretending to be me, saying, I lost my voice, so I can't hop on a voice call, and they fell for it. She made me breakfast and told me I couldn't come into the office for the rest of the workday, so here I am lounging on my sofa with a wet cloth on my forehead, a box of tissues next to me, and the biggest freaking smile on my face. Edit. I took an index card and wrote free workday pass on it, and gave it to my wife in return for helping me out today. I also plan to treat her to a nice dinner once I'm not sick out of my mind.